Hit me! Let's put a smile on that face. Freddy.
Oh my god, you've seen him too. Wake up, wake up. Who are you?
Remember me?
How long have you been awake?
Way too long. I haven't slept in 3 days. I'm starting to dream with my eyes open.
Oh my god.
Why are you screaming? I haven't even cut you yet.
Oh god.
No, just me.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and welcome to this week's movie review of A Nightmare on Elm Street, starring Jackie Earle Haley and Kyle Gallner. If things keep going the way they are, someone's going to burn down the studios of Platinum Dooms and murder Michael Bay for his constant violation of everyone's inner child and cinematic fan. Yet another iconic horror franchise that didn't need a remake was picked up to be remade by Michael Bay and his team, and just like every other remake he's been involved with, this one is a car wreck. Now, before I go any further with the review, I just want to touch upon remakes and how they generally work. Remakes aren't a bad thing since their intentions are to improve films that messed up or make great films into even better ones. Yes, there are a lot of bad remakes out there, and they do tend to get a bad rap for producing terrible films, but they can be used to do good. The best example I always like to use is John Carpenter's remake of The Thing. He took the original film from the 1950s, followed the book better, and created one of the greatest horror films, science fiction films, and just plain best films of all time. The same thing can be said about the 80s remake of Scarface, so remakes can serve a purpose, and when used right, great things can happen. Remakes suffer now because little to no effort is even made with them. Name alone can drive up ticket sales, and when you can make a huge profit without spending much money or putting up much of an effort, then why work hard, you know? The name of an iconic series can put butts in seats despite the movie being bad, and that's what Michael Bay is doing here with his Platinum Dunes label. They are systematically picking famous horror films with big fan bases, remaking them, and cashing in on the love of fans for their franchises, without returning the love back in the form of a great film. Plus, when you always have music video directors and novice storytellers attached to the project with chief CW celebrities, then it's only destiny for it to have a bad remake. Just keep in mind that not all remakes are terrible. Now, what about this film? Is it terrible or fantastic? Well, it walks the fine line between both. The best way I could describe this film is how I described the remake of Friday the 13th, and that was that the film is like a car wreck. It can be a bad sight, but you just can't help but to watch it. And if it captures your attention to any degree, then it's entertaining you, but for the wrong reasons. This film is exactly like that. Now let's go through the best parts of the film first. Jackie Earle Haley's performance as Freddy is actually quite good. Now, some may be arguing that he's nothing or he's got nothing on Robert Englund, and because of that, he's bad in the role, but that's just plain stupid. Robert Englund played Freddy for over 20 years and God only knows how many times. A generation grew up with him in the role, and Jackie Earle Haley can win a fucking Oscar for playing Freddy and still not top Robert Englund. They are too different, and comparing them is beyond stupid. It's like trying to do the same thing for Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger with their roles as the Joker. They are too different to compare, but both are fantastic to say the least. Jackie Earle Haley embodied Freddy to the best of his extent, or to the extent in which he was allowed to. Mannerism-wise, he had the character down pat as he moved like him and toyed with his victims in the exact same manner from the original franchise. But this time around he is darker and lacks the puns, which I found to be a good thing since Freddy shouldn't be funny. Unfortunately, Freddy's realistic makeup results in less facial expressions from the character. You see, this time around Freddy actually looks like a burn victim, but because of that he can't freely make many facial expressions like Robert Englund's Freddy could, so the realism comes with a sacrifice. But aside from that, Jackie Earle Haley did a great job in the role. As for the rest of the cast, they mainly tend to fail, with the exception of Kyle Gallner, who plays Quentin in the film. His performance was solid and one of the stronger ones, despite feeling very close to his performance from A Haunting in Connecticut. The rest of the cast, however, are just painful to watch. Every teen in the flick only serves the purpose of dying quickly before the same tired cycle starts all over again. The girl who plays Chris is also a bore to watch, and things are made even worse when you take into consideration the fact that her character has no place in the film, yet she is developed the most, only to be quickly killed off so we can start the same cycle all over again with Nancy. Is it just me, or does that not make any sense? Speaking of Nancy, she was just awful in the film. Like many remakes nowadays, our heroine is weak and stripped of everything that made her strong and awesome in the original film. Her performance is also boring, as she plays a silent, stuttering, emo girl who acts like she's been possessed by the acting abilities of Michael Cera. Plus, her being so boring causes the audience members to not give a fuck about the protagonist, which is never a good thing. While being interesting and shot well, the dream sequences and set pieces are nothing to rant about. They are mainly direct remakes from the original film, but they are shot well and look very good. Now, for someone who doesn't like 3D, I do wish that the film was shot in 3D, and by that I don't mean Avatar or My Bloody Valentine cheap 3D gimmick either. I'm talking about engaging ones like Coraline. Freddy has full control of the dream world where he can do anything, and for a horror flick in 3D that would have helped it immensely if used right. This was the type of movie that actually needed 3D and it wasn't used, so that was a bit of a letdown considering what could have been improved or done. Now, the death sequences are good for the most part and keep interest, but they aren't as creepy or as engaging as the ones from the original film, and many of the deaths are direct ones from the original, so I was at the very least content with it. I also really enjoyed the minor investigation of Freddy's past, and the whole part about micronaps and sleep disorders. If more of that was incorporated into the film, then we would have had a much better product. The aspect of Freddy being innocent or guilty over his crimes was also an interesting step, and caused a sense of mystery to the movie, but the parents' constant and obvious demeanor of hiding something killed it. The jump scares are also old in this flick. It's mostly the same old stuff with pumping up the volume really loud when something scary is supposed to happen, but I did catch myself being caught off guard at some parts where the jump scares were really loud, but that's being scared for the wrong reasons. Aside from everything mentioned, the film works to be standard. Cinematography is good, as well as production, and the climax of the movie is okay at best, as it sets up the film for a sequel like with the remake of Friday the 13th. Now, if you go into this film with low expectations, then you may be able to have an alright time with the film. The more die-hard fans may want to avoid this one because it may hurt your inner child. As for me, it was alright. A Nightmare on Elm Street gets an 8 out of 10.